Go live in a dumpster, my daughter's words. Today we're diving into a story that doesn't just shock you, it makes you question how a family reaches a moment like this. A moment where a 14-year-old daughter looks into her mother's eyes and fires off words meant to wound. Go live in a dumpster. But what happens next isn't the typical shouting match, because this mother did something none of us would expect. She listened, she walked away, and she took those words literally. This is a story about the breaking point no one sees coming, the moment a parent realizes the weight they've been carrying, and the moment a child learns what consequences truly look like. What unfolded afterward didn't just change their relationship, it changed their lives. My 14-year-old daughter, with tears of pure rage in her eyes, told me to go live in a dumpster. So I did. She thought they were just words, a flash of teenage anger in a fight we'd had 100 times. She was about to learn that words have consequences and that gone is a very long, very quiet lesson. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just vanished. All I left behind was a one-sentence note on her pillow and the slow-burning consequence that would change our lives forever. This wasn't about revenge, not really. This was about silence. I wanted to show her what my absence felt like, what it sounded like. I wanted her to understand that a family is a machine with a lot of moving parts, and I was a part she'd decided was disposable. I was just Dad, the guy who paid the bills, fixed the faucet, and made sure there was milk for her cereal. A background character. She was about to find out what happens when the background disappears and she's left standing on an empty set. The argument is painfully ordinary. It was a Tuesday night. I had just gotten home from a 10-hour shift at the firm, my shoulders tight, with that kind of stress you can feel in your bones. The house was a wreck. Dishes from the weekend were still piled in the sink, a monument to my daughter Maya's promise to do them later. Later, as always, never came. Her backpack had exploded across the living room floor, a minefield of textbooks and crumpled papers. The TV was blaring some reality show she loved. I didn't start angry. I started exhausted. Maya, honey, we talked about this. You have to clean up after yourself. I can't do everything. She didn't even look at me. Her eyes were glued to the screen, her thumbs scrolling endlessly on her phone. In a minute, she mumbled, "That's what broke me." Not a big snap, just a quiet, tired fracture. It was the dismissal, the complete lack of respect. I wasn't asking for a medal. I was just asking for a partner in running our home, a home I worked myself to the bone to provide ever since her mother, Sarah, and I divorced 3 years ago. "No, not in a minute," I said, my voice firmer than I meant it to be. "Now, I just got home, I'm tired, and I don't want to walk into a disaster zone every single night." I walked over and switched the television off. That got her attention. She shot up from the sofa, her face a mask of teenage indignation. "What is your problem? I was watching that." "My problem," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "is that this house is our shared responsibility. Your only jobs are school and keeping your space clean. You're failing at one of them." "Oh, here we go," she scoffed, rolling her eyes with a drama only a teenager can pull off. "Saint Dad who works so hard and does everything, while I'm just the lazy, useless daughter, is that it?" "That's not what I'm saying, Maya." "It's exactly what you're saying. You're always breathing down my neck about everything. Nothing I do is ever good enough for you." Her voice started climbing, cracking with a rage that felt way too big for a sink full of dishes. But I knew it wasn't about the dishes. It was about everything. The divorce, her mother moving across the state with a new husband, leaving Maya with me. It was the simmering resentment of a life she didn't choose. The fight escalated from there, that same ugly dance. She accused me of trying to control her. I accused her of being ungrateful. Voices got loud, old wounds were poked. And then she said it. Her face was red, her chest heaving. I hate it here. I hate living with you. Why don't you just go away? Go live in a dumpster for all I care. The words just hung there in the air, shimmering with malice. It wasn't just an insult, it was how much she meant it. The genuine desire for me to just be gone. In that moment, I saw with perfect, heartbreaking clarity that to her, I was just an obstacle, a warden, not a father. I didn't shout back. I didn't say another word. The fight just died. The silence that followed was heavier than any of the shouting. I looked at her, this kid I loved more than life itself, and I felt like a complete stranger. Her expression was hard, defiant, without a single trace of remorse. She stormed off and slammed her door. I just stood there in the messy living room, the echo of her words bouncing around in my head. Go live in a dumpster. A strange calm washed over me. It was the calm of a man who's finally been given an instruction. She didn't want me here. Fine. I would give her exactly what she asked for. That night, after I was sure she was asleep, I moved with a quiet purpose I hadn't felt in years. I went to my office and took a few thousand in cash from the emergency safe. I packed one duffel bag, a few changes of clothes, a toothbrush, my laptop, and a burner phone I'd bought for a camping trip and never used. I walked through my own house, and it felt alien. I looked at the photos on the mantel. Maya with a gap-toothed first-grade smile, the three of us on our last vacation before the divorce. It was like looking at someone else's life. I went into her room. She was sound asleep, her face peaceful in the moonlight. For a second, my resolve wavered. This was my little girl. But then her words came rushing back. This wasn't a punishment. It was a lesson, a harsh one, sure, but some lessons have to be. Life wasn't going to coddle her, and she needed to see the ugly reflection of her own words. I took a piece of paper and wrote a single sentence. Words have consequences. This is one of them. I placed it on her pillow. I took one last look at her, my heart a cold, heavy stone in my chest. Then I walked out the front door and closed it softly behind me. I didn't lock it. She would need to learn to do that for herself now. I didn't actually go to a dumpster. I'm not a masochist. But I did the next best thing. I drove 2 hours to a forgotten little town on the other side of the state line. I checked into a motel called the Starlight Inn, a name far more romantic than the place itself. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and disinfectant. The bedspread was a questionable shade of brown. It was perfect. It was my dumpster. The first day was the hardest. I just sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress and did nothing. The silence was deafening. At home, there was always noise. Maya's music, the TV, her friends laughing, her door slamming. Here, there was just the hum of the mini fridge and the rumble of trucks on the highway. I turned off my real phone and shoved it in the bottom of my bag. The only connection I had to the world was the cheap burner phone, its number known only to me. I spent those first 2 days just imagining Maya's reaction, picturing her waking up annoyed I hadn't made coffee. She'd see the note. First, she'd be confused. Then, a surge of teenage fury. She'd think it was a game, a childish stunt. She'd probably fire off a string of angry texts that would never be delivered. She'd call and it would go straight to voicemail. I could almost hear her scoffing. Fine, whatever. See if I care. The first couple of days would be her victory lap. The house would be all hers. No one to tell her to turn down the music or nag her about homework. She'd invite her friends over. They'd order pizza, leave the boxes on the floor, and stay up late, reveling in glorious, parent free freedom. She would feel liberated. She'd probably tell her friends. My dad just left. It's so weird, but honestly, it's kind of awesome. And a small, stupid part of me, the dad part, hoped she was enjoying it. But the larger part, the part orchestrating this whole painful lesson, knew that the high of freedom is always temporary. Reality sets in. I had to fight the urge to call my sister or my ex-wife, Sarah, and tell them what I'd done. But that would ruin it. The lesson required total silence. It required everyone to be as confused as she was. If she called her mother, Sarah would be frantic, call me, get no answer, and probably call the police. This had to be a slow burn, not a 5-alarm fire. So I waited. I read cheap paperbacks from the gas station. I watched bad daytime TV. I took long, aimless walks. I was a ghost, a man who had deliberately erased himself. The loneliness was a physical thing, a constant companion. Every time I saw a father with his daughter, a sharp pang of pain shot through me. I second-guessed myself 1,000 times a day. Was this just cruel? Was I traumatizing her? I know this stuff can cause real damage. I was walking a very fine line between a lesson and a trauma. But then I'd remember the look on her face, the coldness, the dismissal. This wasn't just about her words. Our relationship had become transactional. I provided, she existed, there was no real connection. She saw me as a function, not a person, the function of dad, and she was about to learn that functions can cease. The machine can break. On the third day, I allowed myself a tiny crack in the silence. I used my laptop and the motel's spotty Wi-Fi to log into our home security cameras. I'd installed them years ago. Now, they were my secret window back into the life I'd left. The living room was exactly as I'd pictured. Pizza boxes, empty cans, pillows on the floor. Her friend Chloe was there. They were laughing, sprawled on the couch. Maya looked happy, free. It stung. It was part of the process. She had to get the freedom she thought she wanted before she could realize what it cost. I watched for 10 minutes, my heart aching, then shut the laptop. The quiet consequence was just beginning. Her victory lap was as predicted, glorious and short. The weekend passed in a blur of friends and freedom, but then Monday came. I watched on and off through the camera. I saw her wake up late, a flash of panic on her face as she realized I wasn't there for the 10-minute school bus warning. I watched her scramble, grabbing a granola bar from the pantry I had stalked, and sprinting out the door. A small, grim victory for me. The first real sign of the unraveling came on Tuesday evening, 1 week after our fight. The kitchen garbage was overflowing, a smelly monument to a week of unchecked consumption. I would have taken it out. It's one of those invisible tasks I just did. I saw her walk in, wrinkle her nose in disgust, and then she just left it. But the next morning, the smell was obviously worse. I saw her tie the bag, grunting as she lifted the heavy, leaking sack. She dragged it out the back door, and I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. Consequence number 1: trash doesn't magically walk itself to the curb. The little things started piling up. I saw her rummaging for clothes, sniffing things from the dirty hamper, clearly out of clean socks. She didn't know how to use the washing machine. I tried to show her a dozen times, but she was always too busy. Now she had a mountain of laundry and a very real, very boring problem. Then came the bigger things. A note from school. I saw the envelope on the counter. She opened it, read it, and her shoulders slumped. Probably a permission slip, something that needed my signature. A signature from a man who wasn't there. I could see the anxiety creeping in. The house wasn't a fun zone anymore. It was quiet. Too quiet. The background noise of my existence, my keys in the bowl by the door, the news in the morning, the simple question of how was your day, was gone. and the silence it left behind was enormous. The security of her world was eroding. Her first call to her mother came on day 9. I had a feeling how it would go. Sarah's a good person, but she has a new life, a new family, and she always thought I was too soft on Maya. I couldn't hear the call, but I could see Maya pacing, her voice getting higher. I could imagine it. Mom, Dad's gone. What do you mean, gone? I don't know. He just left. I haven't heard from him in over a week. Then the inevitable question from Sarah: what happened before he left? I saw Maya hesitate. She sat down, her head in her hands. The truth. The ugly, shouted truth. I imagined her telling Sarah about the fight, probably downplaying her own part. We had a fight, and I said some stuff. And I knew Sarah's response would be annoyance, not panic. Maya, what did you say to him? You know the stress he's under. You call me back when you've cleaned that house and figured out how to apologize. The call ended. Maya threw her phone on the sofa and screamed in frustration. She wanted a savior. Instead, she was told to fix it herself. The safety net she always assumed would be there had a hole in it. The next day, the boiler broke. It was an old house, and the water heater was temperamental. I knew its quirks, how to coax it back to life. She didn't. I watched her shivering in a sweatshirt, wrapped in a blanket. She probably tried calling a plumber, only to be told the cost of an emergency call-out, money she didn't have. This was the heart of the lesson. It wasn't just about chores. It was about all the invisible labor, the knowledge, the planning, the quiet management of a household that a kid takes for granted. She thought I was just a source of rules and money. She was learning I was also the source of hot water and clean clothes. Her friends stopped coming over. The house was cold and messy. The fun was gone. I saw her just wandering from room to room aimlessly. The bravado was gone, replaced by a quiet, gnawing loneliness. She was showing all the classic signs of being completely overwhelmed, and it was a direct result of what I'd done. The defiant girl who had screamed at me to go live in a dumpster was gone. In her place was a small, lost child in a big, cold house. And as much as it proved my point, watching it unfold was the most painful thing I had ever done. The breaking point came on a Thursday, 2.5 weeks in. It started small. I was watching the camera feed and saw Maya come home from school, moving slowly. She dropped her bag and went straight to the sofa, curling up under a blanket. She didn't turn on the TV. She didn't even grab her phone. My parental alarm bells, long suppressed, started ringing. Throughout the evening, she barely moved. She coughed a few times, a dry, hacking sound. Later, I saw her stumble to the kitchen, pour a glass of water with a trembling hand, and go right back to the couch. I checked the feed again before I went to sleep. She was still on the sofa, shivering under a pile of blankets. My resolve, which had felt like iron, was starting to rust. I told myself it was just a cold. Teenagers get sick. She had to be fine. This lesson was pointless if it caused her real harm. The next morning, I woke up with a knot of dread in my stomach and immediately opened my laptop. Maya was in the exact same spot. She hadn't moved all night. And that's when my whole plan, my carefully constructed detachment, just shattered. This had gone too far. I watched her for an hour, my heart hammering my ribs. She tried to get up, made it 2 steps, and swayed, grabbing the sofa to steady herself. She was properly sick, and she was completely alone. I saw her reach for her phone, probably calling her mom again. The call was short. Her face pale and sweaty, crumpled. I could guess Sarah's response. Maya, I'm sure it's just the flu. Take some Tylenol. I can't drop everything and drive 5 hours for a cold. Dismissive, pragmatic, and for a sick, scared 14-year-old, utterly devastating. Then Maya did the one thing I was waiting for and dreading.
She tried to call me. My real phone. Of course it was off. I saw her try again and again. The desperation on her face was a gut punch. She wasn't angry anymore. She was terrified. She needed her dad.
And her dad was 150 miles away, watching her on a laptop in a cheap motel. The cruelty of my experiment hit me like a physical blow. What was I thinking? This wasn't a lesson. This was abandonment. I had let my own righteous anger blind me to the fact that she was still a child who needed me. That was it. Lesson over. I threw my things into my bag, hands shaking. I checked out of the motel, got in my car, and I drove. I broke every speed limit, that 2-hour drive feeling like an eternity. My mind was a storm of guilt and fear. What if she was seriously ill? What if she needed a hospital? My grand lesson could end in a real tragedy, all because of my pride. When I finally pulled onto our street, I fumbled with my keys, my hands slick with sweat. I burst through the front door, shouting her name. Maya! The house was cold, silent, and messy. I ran into the living room, and my heart stopped. She was on the floor beside the sofa, tangled in blankets. She must have tried to get up and fallen. Her face was flushed with fever, her breathing shallow. I rushed to her side. Maya, honey, it's me. It's Dad. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw me, she looked confused, like I was a ghost. Dad, she whispered, her voice a rasp. You came back. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry, she croaked. I'm so sorry. Shh, don't talk, I said, my own voice thick with emotion as I felt her forehead. She was burning up. We're going to the doctor right now. I scooped her up. She felt so light. All the anger, all the resentment, all the justification for what I'd done, it evaporated, replaced by a fierce, protective love. She was my daughter, and I had left her when she needed me most. As I carried her to the car, her head lolling against my shoulder, I knew that whatever lesson she had learned, I had learned a much harder one. The diagnosis was a severe case of the flu, complicated by dehydration. The doctor gave me a stern look as he explained how dangerous it was for her to be alone like that. Every word was another stab of guilt. The drive back was silent. Maya dozed in the passenger seat. I looked over at her, so pale under the streetlights, and felt a profound shame. I wanted to teach her about consequences, but I had used a sledgehammer to fix a watch. Back home, I carried her up to her bed. I helped her into her pajamas and tucked her in. As I was about to leave, her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Don't go, she whispered, her eyes wide with a fear that had nothing to do with the flu. I'm not going anywhere, I promised, my voice cracking. I'm right here. I sat on the edge of her bed as she held my hand, like she was afraid I might just vanish again. We stayed like that for a long time, no grand speeches, just the quiet weight of everything that had happened. For the next few days, I just took care of her. I brought her soup, made sure she took her medicine, and we watched mindless TV. It felt like going back in time to when she was little and I was the fixer of all things. I was just Dad again, but this time it felt like the most important job in the world. The real conversation happened on the third day. Her fever was gone and she had some color back. She was sitting up in bed, holding the note I had left. I was so scared, she said, not looking at me. At first, I was just mad. I thought you were being so dramatic, but then the house got so quiet and everything started breaking, and I was so alone. I swallowed hard. I know, and I'm so, so sorry, Maya. What I did was wrong. It was extreme and it was cruel. I let my hurt get in the way of being your father. She finally looked at me, her eyes welling up. No, Dad, I get it. I mean, you shouldn't have. done it, but I get why. I said a horrible thing. I didn't mean it, not really, but I said it, and I saw your face when I said it. It was like, I actually hurt you. I never thought I could do that. And there it was, the part that had landed. She hadn't seen me as a person with feelings, just an authority figure. The idea that her words could inflict real pain was a foreign concept. Your words have more weight than you know, honey, I said softly. They can build people up or they can tear them down. And what you said, it felt like you were tearing down everything we were. It made me feel like I was worthless to you. A tear slipped down her cheek. You're not. You're my dad. You do everything. I took it all for granted. I thought the house just ran itself. I never thought about how the bills got paid or why the fridge was always full. I just got mad when you asked me to do one little thing. We talked for over an hour, more honestly than we had in years. She talked about her anger over the divorce, her loneliness. I talked about my own stress, my fear of failing as a single parent. We didn't solve everything, but for the first time, we were actually listening to each other. In the weeks that followed, something shifted. It wasn't magic. Her room still gets messy and we still disagree, but the foundation is different now. There's a new layer of respect. She helps out more without being asked. Sometimes she'll just sit with me in the living room, and the silence is comfortable now, not empty. And I'm trying to be more patient to listen to the feelings behind her words. I didn't teach her a lesson so much as we both learned one. I learned that fear is a terrible teacher and that disappearing is its own kind of violence. She learned that words have the power to make people vanish and that a home isn't just a roof over your head, but a place held together by quiet, daily acts of love. Our relationship isn't perfect, but it's real now. The crack her words made has been repaired. The scar is still there, but it reminds us both of the weight of what we say and the importance of the people who are there to hear us. So I have to ask you, what do you think? Was I wrong to do what I did? Or was it a necessary evil to teach a vital lesson? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe that sometimes silence speaks louder than words, maybe hit that subscribe button.